Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Brew Market podcast. I'm your host, Rakshit, and today we have a very interesting episode because one of my favorite travel creators is here, and she's one of the most hardworking people I know and the most creative people I know. Also, she's my ex colleague. She's none other than Aakanksha Munga. Welcome to the podcast, Aakanksha.
Hi, Rakshit. Oh my God, I'm so excited to be here, especially because, like you said, we've done many Zoom calls like these in the past.
I
Not
know.
Zoom, Teams calls, Microsoft Team calls in the past, which have always been super fun. And now it's just so crazy to be talking to you over a podcast.
Someday we should also meet in person and
Yes,
talk because we
yes.
haven't done that. It's all been virtual so far.
That's crazy, right? That I practically know you pretty well just virtually, but
Exactly,
yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
I mean, like this talking about like knowing each other really well. I remember like earlier this year when we met, you mentioned that you're starting YouTube and you hit 10K very recently. So
Yes.
I remember before like when I was reading up about you to get some more goss around you, at that time I saw that acha you're at 9.5. I was like, okay, maybe while we hit the podcast, maybe you'll reach 10. Suddenly I see yesterday you're like 10.5. I'm like, what? 10.5?
It's crazy. I mean, thank you so much. And I think that puts things in a lot of perspective for me too, because,
I know.
if I compare my growth from Instagram versus YouTube, it's so different and so much slower. So I continuously keep feeling that, my YouTube is just so slow. But now when you put it like that, not a bad job, I guess.
Yeah, remember, like, I mean, it was just around Jan. Like, when I joined initially, I was like, I'm from
Yes, in
social media
Feb.
background.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
that time you were like, hey, this thing was that we'll discuss about YouTube. I'm going to
yeah,
start YouTube. I was
yeah,
like,
yeah,
yes, anytime.
yeah. Crazy, it's crazy. It's been super fun. I'm really enjoying YouTube actually now a lot because
Uh-huh.
it's very different content format type. It's very challenging. So it's very, very unique and different.
So, okay, to the viewers who don't know you, like, why don't you tell them your story and your journey? Like, what's your
Hmm.
journey been like so far? How do you get into the
Yeah.
traveling industry and creating content and everything?
Awesome. So, the first thing that everyone needs to know about me is that I love to travel. So, this is not just for Instagram. I actually do love to travel. And yeah, I've been traveling since I think ever since I was born because I come from the military background. So, traveling kind of runs in my blood. I've changed like 12 schools over the like course of my life and lived in so many different cities,
Mhm.
30 houses, all of that
Yeah.
typical military life. And I started traveling when I was in university, like properly, taking my backpack, saving up money and going by
Mhm.
myself.
Yeah.
I first traveled solo when I was almost going to turn 19.
Wow.
And I think after that there was no looking back. That was like my first taste of what true independent travel felt like, outside of going with your friends and your parents and
Mhm.
really exploring what you like to do. And I think that's where I caught the bug of wanting to share more about my experiences and
Yeah.
journey. And earlier was just a thought because I myself actually wasn't even on Instagram. I was a very anti social media person. um, and
Yeah.
I guess it was cool to be that. Also,
Yeah.
it is still very cool to be anti social media, but
The other person I do this podcast with, Shashank, he's not on any social media.
there
Any.
you go.
Yeah.
There you go. And weirdly, all my friends are the same. Like, so all my best friends, none of them are on Instagram. And that is so
Uh,
sad because I get no support. So,
I mean, you
but
don't need support. You have 329K followers. Why do you need, how much more support do you need?
best friend support hits different.
Yeah.
So, but I guess opposites attract. So I guess that's how it's been. But yeah, so I kind of started sharing my journey during the lockdown actually because I was really bored. My job, so I'd done finance in college and I'd gotten placed, and just like everyone, everything came to a standstill. So
Yeah.
did my job offer. So they were like, we're going to push it for a couple of months. I
Mhm.
didn't have anything to do. So I started writing on Instagram. It was mostly writing before, like when reels had kind of just come in. So no
Yeah.
one really knew what to do with it. So I
Yeah.
used to just write a lot. And I think that kind of started taking off. People, the best part about me creating content when I started was when people would connect with what I was saying. So if I would be talking about, I went for a trip to, let's say, Udaipur. That was my
Mhm.
first solo trip, and I spoke about how, you know, one night I met someone, like a friend who is now like one of my closest friends till now. She lives all the way in UK, I live here. And then there were people who shared the same sort of sentiment and experience, and they would
Wow.
comment and talk to me, and I think that really left an impact. And I was just like, wow, this is great, this is exactly what I wanted to do, share my experiences with people. So yeah, that's how sort of started taking off on the social media space. But because it was new to me, and I always, like I said, come from a poetry background, which meant following a very rigid path in life. So I continued to, I took up my job. I worked in consulting for a year. Didn't like it too much. Then moved to LinkedIn, where I worked with you, and worked as a community manager. That is a job I genuinely loved and enjoyed.
And you were really great at it as well. Like I remember, like so many people, like Aakanksha had so many great ideas.
Thank you so much. You are very kind. But I think it just got a lot in terms of it being overwhelming, having two jobs, because I think by then Instagram was also something that I was focusing on a lot. And I didn't realize that traveling, creating content, and having a full-time job are all three jobs in themselves. Because, usually when you travel, you're just traveling. You're not thinking about content. You're not thinking about what video needs to come out of this, or I need to go at 5 a.m. and then have a full work day after that. So that kind of led me to taking a break from the entire corporate world and pursuing this full time for as long as I want to and as I can. And yeah, that's been my journey in a nutshell, I would say.
Amazing. But then, like, what really led you to become a full-time creator? Like, I mean, do you thought, like, why? How did that thing even come to place? As you mentioned, like you were feeling overwhelmed and everything. So, what?
I mean, to be honest, like, I always feel like ever since everyone in their own way is a creator. That is something I always say. Like, if you're on Instagram and you're posting content for anyone, it could be for your friends, it could be your families. By the end of the day, you're creating something, you're putting it out there. So that is something that I always felt I had within me ever since I started my page. Like I really, really love that. But more than anything, what led me to turning into a full-time creator was the fact that I wanted to grab every opportunity that was going to come my way. And because I work in the travel space of content, things change a little bit for me, because I actually need to move from my house and go there, and it's not possible for me to do everything remote. So it just made sense. And honestly, I really felt like having a full-time job was restricting me in some ways, because I wanted to pour in a lot of more effort into my content, make it different. But that requires time, and I unfortunately only have 24 hours in a day. So unfortunately. So I think to just grab those longer hours and to get proper focus time to be able to make my content a little different, for me to be able to innovate, use different ideas, I needed that space and that time to be creative, which is why I turned to creating full time, and I am really enjoying it. Like it's challenging, but it's fun.
So you didn't think, like, I mean, like, I'm sure I remember you were even planning to hire a team, right? So didn't that help, like working with a team and like delegating a lot of your tasks and creating?
For sure. I mean, I had a team even while I was working at LinkedIn. Even though it was smaller, now it's bigger. But at the same time, I think by the end of the day, if you're a creator, your team can only do so much. Like, of course, your team can help you plan, your team can help you organize. But by the end of the day, it's a job where you are the face of your own brand. So you need to show up. And if I don't show up, then I'm not able to engage with the people. I'm not able to talk to people who, are interested in what I have to say. And I think that's a big part of creating content. It's not just putting your content out there, but also engaging. And that is something I need to be there for. And if I don't have the mental bandwidth to do it, then my brand doesn't work. So I think as the team was helping, it's definitely helped take off a lot of mental load from me. But by the end of the day, I have to show up to be there.
No, makes sense. I completely agree with that, because I'm also working with the team at in this Brew market thing. But I get it, right? Like, because there's only so much your team can execute if you are not there, like providing the vision, and also like
exactly
like what it takes, because like, okay, this is what you want to see the company or your brand like grow into. right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. 100%.
So,
Completely agree. It's not a
yeah,
job. It's not a corporate
exactly.
job. So it's
Exactly.
different. Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, especially if it's yours, it's a passion project, right? Like, I mean, it's you.
Exactly.
Like,
Yeah.
it's your name at the end of the day.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, if you were now creating content, what would you be doing? Would it still be in the travel space? That's my first question.
I think I would definitely have found a way to still, like you said, do something in the travel space,
Uh,
because that is something that is the one thing that I know and I love. So I would have figured a way out around that. But I think if I wouldn't have been creating content, I would have definitely been doing exactly what I was doing on at LinkedIn,
okay.
because I think that job for me was something that I really enjoyed, which was,
Mhm.
helping in the whole social media world. It's a world that I understand and I really
Yeah.
enjoy being creative. But at the same time, it was a remote opportunity, and that for
Mhm.
me was a big deal. So
Yeah.
if I wouldn't have been creating content, I think that for me was one of the like most
Mhm.
ideal jobs that I had, because it was remote, which meant I could
Mhm.
travel and I could be creative day in and day out, and that's a place where I thrive. So that would probably be a community manager.
Perfect. Okay.
Yeah.
Next thing. So, I mean, so see, content creation is a tough space, right? Like, I mean, I'm sure you know more,
Mhm.
like more than anyone.
Mhm.
And on that, the travel segment is even harder. So, like to crack. So, what is the strategy, or rather, like, what are some things that work for you? And like, do you have
Mhm.
any tips that you would like to share that's
Mhm.
helped you grow consistently and build your community?
So I think you're very right when you say that. I wouldn't say travel is a hard space to crack, but it's a very saturated space,
Yeah.
right? Because by the end of the day, travel is something that everyone can create because everyone loves to travel.
Yeah.
So it's not a niche. I would say a very small niche, like
Mhm.
something like personal finance is a niche that only some people can take over, because
Yeah.
by the end of the day, it's the knowledge of that, right? So I think for me, that's what I kind of try to build in my own like content and space, which was how do I pose myself as an expert in the space
Mhm.
that I'm working in. So if it's travel, I try to create content which is helpful. Maybe
Mhm.
out of, like, say, if I'm posting 5 things a week, one piece of content would be more aspirational, wherein you see something, you find it pretty. But I try to very consciously try to make a decision to keep 4 out of those 5 posts informational, so that
Yeah.
I am able to position myself as someone who knows, like, who has the knowledge versus
Mhm.
any other skill. Like, everyone has, I think, a strong skill which they need to identify when they're creating content. For some people it could be cinematography, for some people
Mhm.
it could be photography, for some
Mhm.
people it could be something completely different, like personal finance, tech,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
For me, it was always, like I said earlier as well, sharing my experiences and also being able to help people travel better. So,
Mhm.
which is why I thought that, okay, I need to crack that as my niche and try
Yeah.
to make my pose myself as someone who's able to do that. And I think
Mhm.
that would be my biggest tip for anyone who's starting out, that by the end of the day, you need to be able to position yourself in a way where someone comes to your profile
Yeah.
only for what you can offer, and not
Exactly.
what not because that's how you get
Your
more
USP,
opportunities.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
your USP. It's like, and like that's the thing. You're a brand by the end of the day.
Exactly.
Everyone
Yeah.
is you're working at. It's just, if you're working, say for example, I don't know, a brand like Nike, you think about the same thing. What's their USP? How do you work towards growing their sales? It's
Exactly.
the same thing.
Yeah, at the
It's
end of the
it's the
day,
same
it's
thing.
about branding yourself and your content and everything, right? And as you
Exactly.
mentioned, you are focusing towards knowledge sharing and also
Hmm.
like tips and tricks and like how can you make it more economical and things like that.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Things that, I've seen in India while they're there, but it's not, like, information is not very like widely
Yeah.
available on it.
Yeah.
And also, backpacking is not a big culture in India for especially the younger generation, right? Like,
Yeah.
we only start thinking about travel when we're 28, 29, and those are also, like, that's what I've grown up seeing,
Yeah.
trips which are curated with groups.
Yeah.
And but how do you go beyond that? Because I personally feel that traveling with the kind of travel that one can truly enjoy is
Hmm.
one that's planned on your own, one where you know exactly what you
Hmm.
want to do and you enjoy those activities. And if you have a budget constraint, which we all usually do when we're young, that's what I kind of try to help. help with as well. And also traveling solo as a woman. I think that is something
Yeah,
that
I remember that
really
was one of
empowered
your,
me.
yeah, that is
Yeah.
one of your series, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So what is a CD?
Series. It's,
Series.
yeah, yeah.
Series.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is something that I try to focus on as well, because I personally feel like I would love to see more women traveling solo,
Mhm.
especially from India, because it's such an enriching experience. So yeah.
No, totally. I mean, I love that thing because even on LinkedIn also it did so well. Everybody appreciated that content because they were like, okay, yeah, this is something people want to know about and
Yeah.
genuinely care about. And you were
Yeah.
passionate about it as well. It's not like, and you shouldn't fake it, right? Like I see a lot of people just for the sake of like standing out, they create something to stand out.
Mm-hmm.
Rather,
Mm-hmm.
it should be something that you're passionate about so that like people know that it's just genuine because they can understand if it's fake sooner or
Exactly.
later.
I agree. I agree, because I mean, by the end of the day, like I said, you are the one showing up. So how
Yeah,
long can you fake it for? If you're not enjoying something,
exactly.
there's no point in creating content around that, because after a point you yourself would be like,
Becomes a
I have
chore.
nothing more to
Uh,
say. Yeah.
yeah,
So
yeah,
for
yeah.
sure, agreed.
So, okay, next up, like, see, at
Mhm.
one point, I remember you used to do everything, and you even touched up on that, like in your intro, wherein, like, you used to do A to Z. I remember you used to edit your content, you used to, like, make the designs, you used to do all the reel editing and creating and all of these things, and you used to come to the meeting and be like, dude, I'm exhausted today. So how is that, and like work wise and also mentally, and like compared to that, now you have a team, you're delegating your work. So how's that helped? Like how's that transition helped? Would you recommend delegating as much as possible, or would you still like to have like some things to yourself?
Mhm. I This is a very difficult question for me, because I guess just like anyone who starts out with their own brand, delegation I think is one of the straight things that I struggle with the most
Yeah.
still. But I definitely think that earlier, for sure, I was doing everything A to Z, like you said, from
Mhm.
from ideating to shooting to editing
Yeah.
to putting it out. I think everything was being done by me, and that does get very overwhelming after a point. Also because just having a team, and I think that's one of the best things about working in the corporate world, which is something I truly miss, is having that structure of a
Mhm.
team where
Yeah.
you know that, okay, I am responsible for this person's responsible for this
Yeah.
person's responsible for this, and then you can all come together with your own ideas and
Mhm.
bring that vision together. And I think
Yeah.
that is such a beautiful thing when it comes to like the whole corporate world.
Yeah.
And thankfully I had some experience in it, so I was trying to kind of build up the same thing in my team, wherein I can hire two people who have different skill sets, who can kind of ideate with me. And that is what I needed the most, to be honest,
Mhm.
for me to be able to talk to someone, to be able to bounce my ideas off them, and also to get their inputs on my content. And I think
Yeah.
it's made a lot of difference, because
Mhm.
that allowed me to focus on, like, say, for example, things that were more day to day routine tasks, like reaching out to brands,
Mhm.
emails, all of that. Those were the things that I could first, delegate, and then
Yeah.
focus more on the things where only I can add that spice of value, because
Got
it's
it.
I'm traveling, so I know what the experience is. So I
Yes.
could focus my energies on that, and I think that
Mhm.
was amazing, because it allowed me to fulfill my vision of
Mhm.
some pieces of content that I wanted to put out, while I could very happily see that, okay, the other things that I would have usually spent my time on, maybe even 1 or 2 hours of a day, but by the end of the day it's a lot, are
Yeah.
being taken care of.
Yeah.
um, Even in terms of editing, I have two editors now who work with me. And while again it's hard for me to, like, let go of the entire thing and be like,
I
okay,
know.
everything can be done by you, it's still very helpful.
Yeah.
Secondly, also because I was never an editor, so I used to do
Yeah.
like very basic editing on my phone.
Yeah.
And when I started seeing what all they were doing, I was just like, wow, this is so cool, I can incorporate this in my um videos.
Yeah.
And even though they're on Instagram, and Instagram's very supposed to have basic editing, I think it can add a lot
Mhm.
of flavor to it. So it helped me learn as well, and I would have never upskilled in this area if I wouldn't have worked with people who are actual experts in their
Yeah.
jobs.
True.
So that was amazing. So I've learned some editing now. I can sit on my laptop and edit things. And I think I've come far way from being very scared of it.
I know so many creators who are like, oh no, I can't let this go because I can't trust that that person will be able to do what I can do, what I am envisioning. But then, to be honest, they might be able to do it. There are people who are much better than you. I mean, at least they'll be able to like enhance whatever idea you have and bring it to a like level where you'll be like, oh shit, I could have actually done that.
Exactly, because they're the experts in their field. So 100%, I completely agree with that.
Totally. Even I also I always advocate like delegate as much as possible, and whatever you feel like, okay, yeah, this is something that I don't want to, keep it with yourself. But otherwise, please let it go.
Exactly.
Otherwise, you'll start getting overwhelmed, and that's gonna be worse. Right?
Yeah. So. And that's why hiring people with the right skill sets is very important. People, like I said,
hard to do. It's
very hard.
To find the right people, right? And that will also keep them.
Exactly.
Yeah,
so, but it's so nice. I'm very happy with the team I'm working with right now, and they're all such fun people. Yeah. So it's great.
I know. I know the feeling.
Yeah.
So, what's the creative process been like? I mean, how do you come up with ideas for content? Like you mentioned, like you do all these informative stuff and everything. So how do you research and how do you come up with like, hey, let's go to this place and let's do this thing because I know this. What's your process like?
So I'm a major planner when it comes to content in general. And I think, again, that comes from working in spaces like LinkedIn and, Bain, where nothing goes away without an approval and a plan. Yes. So even for me, it's very difficult for me to work without a plan, even when it comes to my content. So if I'm going to a certain destination, firstly, the destination is decided basis what exactly it is that I want to do there. And I mean, to be honest, I've been to 12 countries, and I know that is also a big number, but there are still so many more places to explore, and each country is massive. So it's just like, it's like the world's your oyster, right? So that there's never a dearth of deciding which place to go to. But I think what to do in terms of content for each place, my first creative process comes from the audience itself. So I try to think as a viewer, if I am going to a place, like, because by the end of the day, every time I travel, I am a customer or a viewer myself of the location, right? So I myself think that, okay, if I'm going here, what are the things that I'm thinking about? I'm thinking about the currency. I'm thinking about what are the best places I should do. If I have 10 days, how do I plan it? If I have 20 days, how do I plan it? So those are I think that's the first step in that direction of thinking about what all do I need to provide. Then going beyond what I think, I try to take in inputs from my audience. Like, Instagram is a great space to have interaction with your audience, putting a Q&A sticker. And that also kind of opens my eyes to things that I sometimes take for granted because I have traveled a lot. So, there are some things that I just think, sabko pata hoga, but it's not common knowledge. Exactly. So I get questions from there. I kind of take them, see how I can use them and, put them across in more of like an informative video. And then lastly, I think I just sit down with each location that I'm kind of planning to go to and try to ideate in terms of how it looks, what's the information that I can provide. I'm someone who loves and enjoys doing transitions. I think it's a great way to captivate people's attentions. And also provide information, though I try to slip in on my own. But at least to grab the attention, it's a good way. So I try to ideate around that, and then I create a very fancy Excel sheet to do all of this, which I share with my team. And then that's kind of how the creative process before going works. And just like any plan, only probably 40% of it gets executed, but I go with 100%.
Love that. I mean, that's how it is, right? You can only expect about 40% to work, or like say even like 40 is also a very big number, to be honest. Because you're traveling, and then there are so many external factors as well. I really liked your very recent video also, like about you went and asked people like what they think about India. That was great. Like, I mean, that's very catchy. Like everybody like people love to know this. I don't know why. There's this everybody wants to know what foreigners think about India, right? Like, I mean, like what is this thing these foreigner people react to this Indian series or this Indian trailer and stuff. So Yeah.
I think it's just like I personally loved making that, and I myself was curious to know because I think the same goes for people who come, say for example, when they come to India because they're just curious to see how other people relate to
Even
their
I,
own
no,
lives.
I love
Yeah,
that as well because I
yeah,
sit and I watch Jabby Koe while
yeah,
reacting to Indian teasers. So, I mean, I'm a consumer of such content as
yeah.
well. That's why I'm saying that.
Yeah, it's just I
Yeah.
don't know why our brain works like that. I think
I
it's just
know.
about when we have something like, I know how I don't know something tastes and now I want to see how other people are going to react to it,
Yeah.
and that is very interesting to watch. So I think
Yeah,
that's super cool.
totally. So, okay, next thing. What goes into a perfect video? You said you've begun editing, you've like upskilled in that. Like, so what goes into a perfect video?
Wow, good question.
Yeah.
I would say I mean, I guess we're talking about Instagram here, right? So,
Yeah.
in terms of I would say short form and long form, again, very two different ball games. Long
Yeah.
form, I'm still figuring out, so I'm not there yet. But I would say for short form, I think what goes into making a video is number one, I think focusing on how you can captivate an attention span that doesn't last beyond 2 to 3 seconds
Yeah.
at this point
Mhm.
is very important. Second is creating content that you want to consume is very
Mhm.
important. I think if I make content, I don't think anything that I've ever made that I personally would not consume has worked. I have made these things though, if
Yeah.
I'm being very honest, where I'm just like, okay, you know what, Instagram's pushing this kind of content.
Yeah.
I might not like it, but let me just make it.
Yeah.
As long until you don't understand or consume the content that you're making,
Uh-huh.
you won't be able to produce the best level of quality. So I
Yeah.
think thinking about that, and number three, always having, and this is something that I used to say when I used to work at LinkedIn as well,
Mhm.
is always having a very strong call to action
Uh-huh.
at the end or the beginning of your video, because
Yeah.
as much as you think just putting like, oh guys, share this or like follow if you like it won't work, it really does, because it's a small
Hmm.
nudge in
Yeah.
that direction for anyone
Yeah.
who's thinking about it, but it's a nudge, a subconscious nudge that really
Mhm.
helps. So I think framing your video in a way which starts with a strong hook, keeps
Hmm.
people captivates their attention in the first 2 to 3 seconds, and then
Yeah.
ending with a strong call to action is
Mhm.
like a perfect recipe for your video. उसके बीच में तुम जो करना है करो, but beginning and end ठीक होना चाहिए.
Perfect.
So
I'm going
yeah.
to steal this up here. I'm going to ask my video editor to watch this part specifically. I'm like, dude, whatever you do, even if you don't watch the full podcast, watch this part.
Yes.
Awesome.
Love that.
So what, like you mentioned all these things, right? Like you're creating, you're traveling everywhere, and you've taken a break also now, and you're doing this full time. What are your goals with respect to creating content? Like, what's the end goal, or like, say, what are you trying to achieve?
Wow, that's a very heavy
I
question.
know.
Honestly, I wish I had an answer for that, but I don't think I really have an answer in terms of like a 5 year goal or a big
Mhm.
goal in terms of that. I mean, for me, it's always been about sharing my experiences that I'm enjoying.
Yeah.
So as long as I'm enjoying it, I'll continue to do that. I definitely have a goal of being able to be better on YouTube
Mhm.
and being able to produce more high quality long form content, because
Yeah.
while people's attention spans are reducing, I think information cannot like can only be given out in the best way possible if it's longer. So
Yeah.
I think that is something that I definitely want to focus on more, and that is one of my goals for the upcoming, let's say, months or a year for sure, to have more long form content involved in my on my page, be it in no matter what format it's in.
Yeah.
And LinkedIn is also something that I'm focusing on in terms of goals, because I feel like that is also a space where I'm able to provide that sort of long form content and go
Uh-huh.
beyond just the surface level information that
Exactly.
kind of works on Instagram. And in terms of long term goals in general, I think it's just for me to be able to travel in ways that I haven't experienced before. I feel like I'm still very new to the whole traveling thing, because even though, I mean, yes, I've traveled a lot, but at the same time, I feel like there are things, I guess, that could be more uncomfortable that I haven't done just yet.
Like
Um, you
what?
know, I guess, I don't know, like physically challenging more things that like I absolutely love anything that's physically challenging, and I feel like there's so much more that I could do in
Mhm.
terms of harder treks, like just thing like landscapes that are also more challenging. That is something that I really want to do. And also travel local more around the
Yeah.
world. Go to places that aren't very frequently traveled to, like, Albania is a place that's on my
Yeah.
list. Iran is on my list. So
Wow. Okay.
being able to gather, I guess, not just the courage but also the experience to be able to go there and confidently navigate through the place is something that's definitely a goal for me. So yeah.
Love this. I mean, especially like in your first point, this thing with that YouTube, LinkedIn, and all these places, long form content in general helps you build your community, right?
Yeah.
That's why
Yeah.
it's something that even I, although I'm very new to the whole content creation space, but I'm like banking on long form content because that eventually that helps you build your community.
Correct. You can really know a person more
Exactly. Yeah.
than what you would from a 30-second, 40-second video for sure. I agree.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And also these exotic countries that you mentioned, like, and not just
Mm,
exotic, but these challenging countries and these
mm,
places also like places where there are geopolitical issues going on,
mm,
Iran
mm,
and everything. It's scary, but also it has a thrill and everything.
mm.
I mean, you want to
Yeah.
experience that.
Yeah, more than thrill, I think it's just that every place has so much beyond, like, what the politics is saying or what the media says. And
Mhm.
I think it's very important to see, because by the end of the day, people make the place. So
Mhm.
it's by the end of the day, it's never going to be as bad as what the media tells you. And I want to be able to see that for myself.
True.
So that's a big goal, but it's a bit intimidating right now. So hopefully
Yeah.
I'll be taking it up sooner or later. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. So, okay. What's one of your major learning that you've had as a creator?
Major learnings that I've had as a creator. Ooh, I think very cliched, but
Yeah.
it's not a you can't see it. There's no way that you can see it as a, what is that curve called? Oh my god, I've forgotten. Just
Bell
it's
curve? I don't know.
yeah, no, not bell curve. It's more of
Uh,
a bell curve
yeah.
than a linear growth. It's not
Okay.
linear.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so it's not something where it's not like, when you're working in a corporate job, okay, if I do these things right, I will get
Yeah.
promoted. Then I go here, then I go there. It's like
Yeah.
step by step by step.
Yeah.
Content creation is just like that is what it looks like. And
Yeah.
I think the sooner or later you kind of accept that, it's just easier for you mentally, because I think that the biggest challenge of having this job is honestly it's nothing but the mental stress that comes with it, because it
Uh-huh.
is mentally taxing to be on all the time. And I think
Mhm.
knowing and acknowledging that and being okay with it is probably my biggest learning, because I've always been someone who wants to be at the top of it, or I thrive on, if I'm not doing well at something, I want to be better at it.
Yeah.
But with social media, that's not the case. Sometimes you can be doing everything right and maybe things aren't working out in that moment. So just being
Uh-huh.
patient and being like, it's okay, things will work out on their own. That I think is has been my biggest learning personally.
Perfect. Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. And at this note, we're done. But I have a fun game. Like I always
Okay.
do this
I'm
before we.
excited.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just give me a moment. I forgot to bring it over here. Let me
Okay.
just. Yeah.
Cool,
Just
cool,
give me a
cool.
moment. Yeah.
One eternity later.
Okay. Yeah. I'm back. So this game is called Rapid Brew. Okay. In which I
Mm-hmm.
shuffle a few cards
Okay.
and whatever comes up, I read the question, you got to answer. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. I'm excited.
Awesome. So
So
the
it's
first,
like a rapid fire.
yes, in 12 seconds or less. You have 12 seconds, not very.
Okay. Wow. Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
So, what's one meeting you always look forward to? Like meeting a person or whatever.
Currently, it's with a video call with my brother, because he's moved to Canada and wow, he's far away. So yes, that's one meeting I look forward to every day.
Love it. Okay. Next one. Okay. Summarize your authentic self in one word.
Oh my God. Um, uh, Culture aficionado.
That's two words, but I'll give you that.
Okay, thank you.
What's your go-to karaoke song?
Wow. Oh my God, I was literally thinking about this Seven Rings by Ariana Grande.
Oh man, mine is Backstreet Boys. You know that You are my
Yeah. Oh,
yeah,
yes.
that one. Okay. Then okay. If you could be an instant expert at anything, what would it be?
Taxation.
Oh man, I remember our LinkedIn days when we
Listen.
used to struggle.
Oh God.
Now it
We
must be
used
worse, right?
It's just my biggest stress. Yeah, I mean, at least at a job, like they deduct things and they're like, they email you, they're like, hello, if you're not
Yeah.
going to do this. Now I get no emails. Now I'm just like, my dad is the one emailing me, kar liya ki nahi kar diya.
Hello.
Oh my God. Yes, I really like, I would love, yeah, I just want to be an expert in taxation. That's what I want.
Love that answer.
Yeah.
Okay. A genie grants you the ability to have infinite amounts of one item. What is it?
Languages I know.
Wow. Nice. Okay. Final question.
Hmm.
Okay. Share a recent win that you've had at work or at home. I mean, like at content creation or at home.
A recent win.
Yes.
Wow. I think a recent win for me has been able to like there were some complex videos that I guess I wouldn't have been able to edit a year back, but now I've been able to do that on my own completely. So I think that would be a recent win for me.
Love it. Okay, on that positive note, we are done. And it was amazing having you today. Okay, before we end, like we always have this, like, where do people find you if they have to find you?
Okay, if they want to find me, everyone can find me first on Instagram,
Yeah.
then on LinkedIn, because I'm very active on LinkedIn and I reply to everyone on LinkedIn, and also on YouTube. As Rakshit mentioned, I've been working hard on YouTube since like beginning this year. So yeah, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, all of them are by my name, Aakanksha Monga. So you can find me everywhere.
Love it. And if you want to find me, you can hit me up on brewyourmarket.com or go to our Instagram page or hit me up on LinkedIn. See you all in the next episode. See you. Bye-bye.
Bye.